My name is Michael Panella. I'm a criminal defense and family law attorney out of Orlando, Florida, and today I'm going to be reacting to some legal scenes from movies, most of which I haven't seen. First, we're going to look at My Cousin Vinny, which is my favorite law movie, though it's been a while since I've seen it, so let's go.
The defense is wrong.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
How could you be so sure?
Because there is no way that these tire marks were made by a 64 Buick Skylark. These marks were made by a 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
I love Marissa.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we clarify to the court whether the witness is stating opinion or
I
fact?
also love that this guy was Perry White on Lois and Clark, little known fact, and the judge is Herman Munster, but no one seems to care.
This is your opinion?
It's a fact.
I find it hard to believe that this kind of information could be ascertained simply by looking at a picture.
Would you like me to explain?
I would love to hear.
So in real life, if we were going to bring in an expert witness at the last minute, disclosure would have needed to happen. Opposing counsel would have taken the jury out, cross-examined that person on what it's called a voir diring the witness, on what their expertise is, move to strike that witness, because no one can actually render an opinion. A regular witness can't just say, in my opinion, X, Y, Z, unless it's basic things like speed limits estimation or something like that. If you're going to be an expert witness and qualify someone as that, they can give an opinion given a set of facts. So that's a really big deal that can really help a case or really tank the other side. So normally, there's no way this witness would have been testifying.
So would I.
The car that made these two equal-length tire marks had positive traction. Can't make those marks without positive traction, which was not available on the 64 Buick Skylark.
And why not? What is positive traction?
It's a limited slip differential which distributes power equally to both the right and left tires. The 64 Skylark had a regular differential, which anyone who's been stuck in the mud in Alabama knows. You step on the gas, one tire spins, the other tire does nothing.
What she's testifying to could totally be something that someone with her knowledge would know, and they could be an expert. If they were disclosed ahead of time, in most courtrooms across the United States, there's really not much that the other side could do to stop this testimony if indeed the person is an expert. The best they could do is say, hey, let's just discredit that fact and say they've never been qualified as an expert in court before and they can't speak to this because they're not truly an expert in their field. There's tests for that sort of thing, and most jurisdictions throughout the country apply what's called a Daubert standard on whether someone can even testify in the first place as to their opinion. But here, Marissa Tomei, this awesome, grew up with cars, mechanic life, knows this information. Real people know this information and know this about cars. That could be testimony that, if properly authenticated, would be brought into a trial.
That's right.
Is that it?
No, there's more. You see, when the left tire mark goes up on the curb and the right tire mark stays flat and even, well, the 64 Skylark had a solid rear axle. So when the left tire would go up on the curb, the right tire would tilt out and ride along its edge. But that didn't happen here. The tire mark stayed flat and even. This car had an independent rear suspension. Now, in the 60s, there were only two other cars made in America that had positive traction and independent...
I love that scene where the defendants look at each other and they're just like, where's she going? This is amazing for us. That's a real thing that sometimes happens in trials, where you might get a witness that says something that you weren't, as the lawyer, even expecting they were going to say, and it's a gift, and you use that. And I've been in scenarios where, even my client is just getting excited about what's going on that no one, may not have even been anticipated, but it's the attorney's job to go ahead and capitalize that and keep moving with that witness, even if it's initially a witness that's against you.
One was the Corvette, which could never be confused with the Buick Skylark. The other had the same body length, height, width, weight, wheelbase, and wheel track as the 64 Skylark, and that was the 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
And because both cars were made by GM, were both cars available in metallic mint green paint?
They were.
Thank you, Ms. Vito. No more questions. Thank you very, very much. You've been a lovely, lovely witness.
This is why this is the best movie. So even though that's in some ways an exaggerated scenario, it is also realistic. You can absolutely have a witness that could blow the doors off the other side, and if they didn't do their due diligence in deposing your expert witness, you might be bringing in facts that they never even saw coming. You know, something that's interesting about this is the way that they end up winning the case is ultimately by bringing in something the prosecution never saw coming. It's the same set of facts. A car pulls out, there's tire tracks, but by bringing in added truth that wasn't even considered by the other side, it's a totally different ballgame. And that's what makes legal cases so interesting.
All right, Mike, so we're going to do Legally Blonde now.
All right.
Mr. Salvatore, do you have any proof that you and Mrs. Wyndham were having an affair?
Only the love in my heart.
Well, if that's all the proof that he has, Your Honor, I think I'm done here.
You may step down.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions, Your Honor. Just give me a couple minutes.
All right, realistically, this wouldn't happen, mainly because as a general rule, judges have a rule that, listen, it's one lawyer per witness anyway. This is to prevent questioning going on forever and to prevent tag teaming. So if one lawyer was assigned to that witness on the direct examination or the cross-examination, it really, as a general rule, needs to be that same one. So someone else jumping up and saying, from the same team, saying, hey, I'm going to tag in now, just isn't very realistic.
Did you ever take Mrs. Wyndham on a date?
Yes.
Where?
A restaurant in Concord where no one could recognize us.
And how long have you been sleeping with Mrs. Wyndham?
3 months.
And your boyfriend's name is?
Chuck.
Right.
All right, so the thing here is it becomes a great scene. It's really funny. Obviously, the witness gets tripped up. The issue is almost like Simon Says is what's going on here. Simon says this, Simon says that, do that, and he's trying to trip up a witness. Would that matter in a real case? It would only matter if the jury cared. If they thought that that witness was truly trying to lie, then it matters. But just because a witness says something doesn't mean that it's actually going to make a difference. What matters in the end is that the finder of fact, which in these cases is a jury, actually what they believe. So this trick might be cute. It may have been effective for the jury, depending on the whole rest of that trial. It also may have just been swept under the rug and they didn't care. You know, also, like, just because he has a boyfriend doesn't mean he isn't also sleeping with this particular person. It's also interesting looking at this clip 21 years later about how we look at the LGBTQ community and just about human sexuality in general. I think there was a lot more stereotypes and box putting back in the early 2000s than hopefully where we're at now. So that trope sort of worked in this movie. I don't know that it would work now, and frankly, I think it would be kind of offensive to a jury.
Pardon me.
Yes, Mr. Salvatore.
I was confused. You see, I thought you said friend. Chuck is just a friend.
Oh, okay. You bitch!
And of course, you know, that just is the funniest part of the scene. But again, playing on stereotypes, even the way, the lisp in the boyfriend's voice, all things that I think are probably pretty offensive now. But at the same time, it worked for this movie. And again, this was over 2 decades ago. The other thing about this is the rule that they always teach you if you're going to be a trial litigator is you don't ask a question, especially to an adverse witness, that you don't already know the answer to. So certainly in real life, that could have blown up and backfired in his face. But this is a Reese Witherspoon that's pretty cute, so obviously it worked. The Good Wife. I've never seen this show in my life.
So, Anya, the week before the murder, this is the week Mr. Kimball received the leaked video. Did you and Mr. Kimball travel to Washington, D.C.? It's a simple question, Anya. Did you and Mr. Kimball stay together in Washington, D.C.?
I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
Okay, so obviously in a scenario like this, I don't know anything that's going on in this clip, but, you know, with even just the break in her answering, you know that she is hiding something. I think that juries pick up on that like 100% of the time. And yes, it is realistic to plead the fifth if you are being asked a question. What that means is just you don't have a requirement to answer a question that may result in you being charged criminally. It doesn't mean that you can just plead the fifth and not answer questions that have nothing to do with that. There's a very limited scenario. So already watching this, if this is accurate, whatever the context is, she's hiding something that may be criminal activity.
Are you sure that's what you want to do? You're pleading the fifth?
Yes.
You're worried about relating what happened with the victim in Washington, D.C.?
All right, so the judge stepping from where he is a place that's supposed to be impartial and asking if that's sure what she wants to do, I think that that could be construed as certainly overstepping. It might even be construed as giving legal advice, which is something a judge's not allowed to do. Let's see how this goes.
On the grounds that it may incriminate me.
Miss, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Your Honor,
Are
the
you
witness
pleading
already
the
answered.
fifth because you were involved in Mr. Kimball's murder or because
Your
of the
Honor,
leak
it
of
is
the...
not your place to ask my witness.
Yes, it is, Mrs. Florrick. Now, you are taking the fifth...
Your Honor, if you compel my witness to answer this question, I am moving for an immediate mistrial.
Denied. I'm asking a simple question.
You are not, sir.
Mrs. Florrick...
All right, I don't know what's going on. You know, as far as what the context is here, I'll just tell you right now, a judge doing what they're doing in front of the jury would be a mistrial. I would move for a mistrial. I don't even know if this lawyer's the good person or the bad person here, but this is what you do. You've got to set a record. If you don't move for a mistrial and the judge denies, you know, if you don't get one and you didn't preserve that record, then on appeal, it's waived too. So you have to actually lay the record as the lawyer, and this judge is out of line.
Mrs. Florrick, shut up.
No, sir.
Excuse me?
As long as you are attempting to circumvent her Fifth Amendment right, I will not shut up.
You will shut
See,
up.
obviously,
or be
I was
held
just
in
going to say this judge is going to say I'm going to hold you in contempt. Obviously, this is some sensationalized video, but no. If a judge told an attorney to shut up, this all of a sudden becomes next level unprofessionalism. Judges are held to ethics standards. Lawyers are held to ethics standards. Whatever's going off here is way off the rails.
Then hold me in contempt, and I will refer this to the Judicial Conduct Committee for immediate action.
I actually was I was a public defender at one point in a circuit where a judge did this with another public defender. This happened like right around the time that I was working there. And actually the judge and that public defender went outside and got in a physical, like a fist fight. It was a huge deal, and it was my office. At this point, you've got a lawyer that's threatening a judge, which is also inappropriate. She's saying that I'm going to go ahead and refer you to the JQC or the Judicial Qualification Commission or whatever it is here. In the case that I'm talking about that happened in real life, that judge was disciplined. Didn't look good on the lawyer either. There were some issues. You're held to a higher standard if you're a judge. You're held to a higher standard if you're a lawyer. And this little tit for tat does happen. I've seen it happen worse than in the show in real life, but it doesn't make it okay, and it's not without consequences.
This court will adjourn until tomorrow morning.
That was the right call. Tempers needed to calm down, and that whole scenario needed to end. I was also on another case once that had national media attention, and one of the lawyers and the judge were not seeing eye to eye, and the judge actually removed herself from the courtroom without saying anything, which I think was also the right call. It's very interesting when a judge gets into it with a lawyer and their human elements are coming out. The lawyer here trying to protect, I don't know, her, I don't even know if that was her client or what that was, but the idea of overstepping Fifth Amendment grounds from the bench is not okay. This idea that a judge and an attorney may be at odds with each other is a place you never want to be in as an attorney, but unfortunately it's one that can happen. Everyone needs to treat each other with respect. This judge wasn't treating this attorney with respect, in fact was using his power and abusing his power, saying I'm going to hold you in contempt. Not okay, has happened, I've seen it happen, I've been there when it's happened. The attorney has a responsibility though to lay the record. Lincoln Lawyer, the movie or the TV show?
The movie.
Man, I haven't seen that in over a decade. All right, let's go.
Mr. Talbot, you were with Miss Campbell on the night of March 6th.
Yep. We went on a date to the association. Then I took her back to her place for another date.
And did you have sexual relations?
About $400 worth. And she earned every single cent.
What time did you leave her apartment?
Oh, I don't know, about 5 minutes before 10.
Did she say whether she had another appointment?
Oh, no. She acted like she was done for the night.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't think Mr. Talbot's qualified to interpret Miss Campos' thinking or plans.
I mean, she acted satisfied.
Sustained.
Go on, Mr. Minton. When you left, Mr. Talbot, what condition was she in? Was she hurt?
No. She was fine.
She did not look like this.
Man. What kind of sick bastard does something like that?
I mean, the arrogance of this witness is something that if you're in this scenario, you're an attorney and you've got a witness that's smug like that, that's the best thing that could ever happen. When I've got a witness that thinks they know everything, or are going to try to get one over on me, or they're trying to... All I know is that juries are smarter than we think, and they can see right through that. They automatically don't trust this person, and what you want to do is you want to be conveying trust as the attorney, and basically set it up where you're the adult in the room. And if witnesses start getting upset, or if they start acting like better than anybody else, no one likes a smug jerk.
Answered the question.
No. No, we made pleasurable and consensual love. I mean, that's what life's all about, right? Then I paid her.
Mr. Talbot, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Left.
Left.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that before you left Miss Campbell's apartment, she asked you to repeatedly strike her in the face with your left fist?
Your Honor, Mr. Haller is just muddying the waters with outrageous statements.
It's part of the defense theory, Your Honor.
So part of the defense theory, first of all, Matthew McConaughey is awesome in this movie. Part of the defense theory is something where you are allowed to ask questions to explore a reasonable defense. And in fact, the prosecution is required to prove their case beyond and to the exclusion of a reasonable doubt. And there's case law out there that says if you have a theory of defense where even if it's improbable that the prosecution can't overcome, the jury is required to consider that and may even get a special jury instruction on that. So a judge has to be real careful about stopping questioning in the very beginning when they don't necessarily know where the defense is going.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
This is by your hand, isn't it, Mr. Talbot? Admit it. This whole thing is a setup by you and Miss Campo framing my client, Louis Roulet, isn't it?
There's a problem with that question. It's a compound question. Is the question, was this by your hand or was this a setup? On cross-examination, which is what this is, the defense or the state, it doesn't matter. It's whoever is going second, the person who's witnessed it, that is not, gets to cross-examine, and you can ask what's called leading questions. So they can be suggestive, but they can't rise to the level of being argumentative, and they also can't be too confusing where the witness can't answer. What question was just posed?
Or any other woman, you understand?
Do you know a prostitute named Shaquille Barton? Work name is Shaquilla Shackles.
Yeah, I seen her once.
And if I brought her in here, and she said, yes, Mr. Talbot, he did strike me with his left fist in my face,
she'd be lying. I tried Shaquilla.
All right, this is an interesting thing. This is evidence of a crime not charged that can be objected to. So that line of questioning should be shut down if the prosecutor was doing his job. This is also potentially objectionable on relevance grounds. What the defense is trying to do is they're trying to go on MO, modus operandi. That's what that stands for. So this is what you always, every time you're with a prostitute, you strike them with your left fist. So that's why this time you did that too. But you got to be really careful because there's rules about trying to bring in prior incidents to prove that you did that this time. There's very specific ways you can do it. This is borderline inappropriate.
Shaquilla once, but I'm not into that rough stuff. I'm a missionary man.
with a strong left.
Am I on trial here?
Not yet.
It's a great answer because, you know, right there, that's again that smugness, responding back, am I on trial here? He didn't answer the question. There really wasn't a question posed, though. Again, expertly done with a strong left. That would have been allowed, most likely, because in a way, the witness could have just denied it. So much of that clip is wonderful. I could see a scenario like that truly happening in a criminal trial. But again, there were certain lines that were crossed, but the objections weren't raised by the prosecution and the judge let it go. All right, Dark Knight. Love it.
Sorry I'm late, folks.
Oh, look, it's Two-Face.
Who are you?
Worried you'd have to step up?
Harvey, I know these briefs backwards.
Well, then, fair's fair.
I always thought it was funny that she didn't know the forwards.
Tailsy's all yours.
Oh, yeah? You want to flip a coin to see who leads?
It's my father's lucky coin. As I recall, it got me my first date with you.
I wouldn't leave something like that up to chance.
I don't. I make my own luck.
All rise. The Honorable Judge Friedel presiding.
I thought the DA just played golf with the mayor, things like that.
Tee-off's 1:30. More than enough time to put you away for life, Sally.
With Carmine, Falcone, and Arkham, someone must have stepped up to run the so-called family. Is that man in this courtroom today? Could you identify him for us, please?
You win, counselor. It was me.
I have a sworn statement from you that this man, Salvatore Moroni, is the new head of the Falcone crime family.
Moroni? He's a fall guy. I'm the brains of the organization.
Order. Permission to treat the witness as hostile.
Granted.
All right. So for one thing, treating the witness as hostile, all that means, it's so sensationalized in these movies. If you are calling the witness, like in this case, the district attorney's office or the state attorney's office is calling a witness, that's your witness. You need to ask open-ended questions. It's called direct examination. The other side could come up once it's their turn to ask questions and cross-examine, ask ask questions that are leading, ask questions that insinuate an answer. That's what that is. So if you're asking permission to treat a witness as hostile, it doesn't mean that you get to yell and scream at them or jump over the bench at them. It means, can I treat this witness as if I'm on cross-examination right now instead of direct? Meaning, can I ask leading questions, and can I ask way more direct than open questions that call for an answer rather than open-ended questions? So that's all that means. It doesn't mean this. And then, of course, he's about to pull out a gun, which is totally unrealistic.
Carbon fiber, 28 caliber, made in China. If you want to kill a public servant, Mr. Moroni, I recommend you buy American.
Get him out of here.
But, Your Honor, I'm not done.
Anyway, totally unrealistic in every way, but I think the movie is trying to suggest that the mob even has ties with, I guess, the courtroom deputies and the folks running the metal detectors in the beginning of the courthouse, so somehow someone was able to sneak in a gun. In real life, guns do come into courtrooms because they're usually evidence, and even then, there are extreme procedures. These things are locked up 6 ways to Sunday with zip ties and all kinds of other things before they can even come into a courtroom. This idea that someone just snuck a gun in especially in a post 9/11 world, makes no sense. But Dark Knight, great movie, kind of fun to watch. The good guy, who we all know turns out to be a bad guy. Spoiler alert. All right, guys, I hope you had as much fun watching this as I had making this, even for a bunch of movies that are legal that I haven't seen. I guess I need to watch some more movies. Take care.